He spent years ruling the streets of Brooklyn, unbothered, untouchable, and absolutely not interested in your trap. This is the story of Big Boi, a cat who lived life entirely on his own terms, and then, very slowly, began to consider other options.
Are we greeted with paws out now? That's lesson 9? Paws out. Good boy. Oh, there's a slow wig.
Big Boi was a colony cat in the 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞 neighborhood of Brooklyn. For years, he was cared for by a man named Jose, who was unhoused but dedicated to the group of cats he considered his family. Jose wasn't just a feeder. He was protective of these cats in a deeply personal way. He allowed the local rescue, bookstore cats, to come in and TNR the colony cats, but when it came to Big Boi, he drew a firm line. Jose believed that Big Boi was the colony's protector, and that neutering him would somehow diminish that role, leaving the group vulnerable. So Big Boi remained intact, large, and very much in charge. In January of 2022, Jose passed away. Before he died, he made Amanda from Bookstore Cats promise that his cats would be taken care of. She kept that promise. Working with the volunteer network at 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞 Cats, she helped organize a team of around 30 people to look after the colony. 30 volunteers for one Brooklyn cat colony that would be on its own without these kind-hearted people. It is entirely volunteer work, and the 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞 colony is just one of several Amanda manages, alongside the rescued cats she has in foster homes waiting for adoption. The whole operation runs on time, dedication, and the kind of stubborn compassion that makes you show up even when it's hard. That compassion takes a very specific shape: trap, neuter, and return, or TNR. It's the most humane and effective tool available for managing feral cat colonies and addressing the overpopulation crisis, not just in New York City, but in cities everywhere. Without TNR, colonies grow. With it, they stabilize, and cats like Big Boi get a chance at a better life. Big Boi himself was the one exception Jose had insisted upon, but that eventually would have to change too.
Are you sitting in the shade? Look how handsome you are. So handsome.
At first, he was against the change with all his heart. Street life was the only one he knew, and he got used to it. He was a loner, not bonded with any of the other cats the way colony cats often are with each other. While other cats formed their little social circles, Big Boi kept his distance. He showed up to eat after everyone else, waited for his own bowl, and went about his business. He was the king, and kings don't need friends. He wandered around thinking that he was living the best life possible and that any change was for the worse, not for the better. But the streets are not kind, even to kings. Over time, volunteers began to notice that Big Boi wasn't looking well. He had wounds, scabs, ear mites, the accumulated toll of years of outdoor life. He was also losing weight, likely because his teeth had deteriorated to the point where eating had become painful. The cat, who had once been the undisputed ruler of his territory, was quietly struggling.
Oh, boys, I see your rotten teeth. You need a dental, my friend.
The decision was made to trap him, get him to the vet, and figure out what was going on. What followed was one of the most drawn-out, humbling experiences in the colony's volunteer history. It took more than 4 months to trap Big Boi. He was extraordinarily smart. Having apparently watched the whole TNR process happen to his fellow colony cats over the years, he had developed a thorough and sophisticated understanding of what a trap looked like and what it meant. He wasn't going anywhere near one.
Eat. Baby. Baby. Uh-oh, there he goes. Yeah,
he just walked away.
The breakthrough came through patience and strategy. Amanda and the volunteers eventually trained him to eat from a side entry carrier. Slowly, carefully, over many weeks, they've made that a normal part of his routine. And then one day, a volunteer quietly closed the door behind him. Big Boi, the cat who had evaded capture for the better part of half a year, was finally inside. It was, by all accounts, shocking.
Oh, jeez. Okay. All right.
He was taken to the vet, where a number of bad teeth were removed, his wounds were cleaned up, and his ear mites were treated. Physically, he was on the mend. Emotionally, however, Big Boi had entered entirely uncharted territory. When he was first brought indoors, he shut down completely. He hid in a corner. He wouldn't eat in front of anyone for the first 3 or 4 days. He was a cat who had spent his entire life outside, in charge, with full autonomy. And now he was inside a crate, in a strange place, surrounded by humans. For a cat like Big Boi, this wasn't just an adjustment. It was an identity crisis. But slowly, things changed. 𝐾𝐨, the volunteer who worked on his socialization, was very patient with this special boy. And after a few days of decompressing, he began to cautiously re-engage with the world. Trust was being built in the smallest, most deliberate increments. Daily visits, quiet presence, no pressure. Just 2 individuals, one human and one extremely suspicious former street king, figuring out a new dynamic.
Hey. We're doing it. We're doing it? We're doing this? We're doing this, right? We're gonna do it. Good job, buddy.
And then, one morning, something remarkable happened. Big Boi climbed onto 𝐾𝐨's lap. He surprised himself. He actually seemed startled by what he had done, as if his body had made the decision before his dignity could intervene. Nearly 2 months into the socialization process, Big Boi was showing all the signs of a cat ready to retire indoors. He was relaxed. He was sleeping deeply. The kind of full, unguarded sleep you only see in a cat that genuinely feels safe. A truly feral cat never gets there. They stay on alert, always. The fact that Big Boi could sleep like that meant something had fundamentally changed in him. He had come to understand that nothing bad was going to happen to him anymore. This cat, who spent years as a loner on the streets of Brooklyn, who watched over a colony, who outlasted dozens of trap attempts and baffled a team of 30 dedicated volunteers, who grieved in his own way the loss of the man who had fed and protected him. This cat was ready for a home. Big Boi deserves the best retirement imaginable. A warm spot in the sun, a bowl that's always full, and ideally a household that understands he was once royalty and will treat him accordingly. Jose asked that his kitties be taken care of. Thanks to Amanda, 𝐾𝐾, and 30 volunteers who clearly have huge hearts, Big Boi is getting exactly that chance. It's time for the king to get his own castle.